Dwone Jones. Everybody knows me as DJ though. Born in St. Louis, raised in Edwardsville, Illinois, but I've lived in Australia for the last 23 years. So I currently reside in Sydney, New South Wales. Moved there about 5 months after 9/11, so moved there in February of 2002. 12 years ago, I had been diagnosed with a rare progressive form of lower rectal cancer. Had a bleed, went in, sat down and talked with the doctors in Australia. Basically, 5 days later, I was on chemo, radiation, being treated very quickly. Had a lot of chemo, a lot of radiation. Actually had all of the radiation I could have, about 6 months going back and forth. Then had to take some time off, come off of the pain medication, have the surgery. Ended up with an ileostomy bag, which is a temporary bag. Had that for 6 months, and then went and had a reversal. Ever since that operation, chemo, radiation 12 years ago, I've had twisted bowel 2 to 3 times a year. That has required a hospital day of anywhere between 3 to 6 days. 2023 October, I ended up with twisted bowel and had to have surgery again. Doctor thought it was going to be maybe a keyhole and an hour or 2 surgery. Turned into an 8-hour surgery with 2 different surgeons. They never got to the block. They basically stated that they had never seen anyone's large and small intestines with so much adhesion and scar tissue. And basically I spent 3 months in the hospital, St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, on a feeding tube. That's kind of where they had the feeding tube. And then I was basically told that if it didn't clear up, they could only do 1 more surgery. And I may or may not come off the table because I would have to have both large and small intestine taken out, opened up, and cleaned out the entire time in one go. And so they really didn't want to do that. So my partner started looking at just other things because it was, just didn't know if I was going to come out or not. So came across through research Clear Passage and took a deep dive into the clinical research and case studies, etc. And was impressed with what we saw. Gave it to our colorectal surgeon, and he thought it was impressive and basically stated we should do it. So here we are. The data is the data, science is science. It's pretty black and white. All you have to do is see it. It's backed by reputable organizations and institutions, the Mayo, Stanford. So when you look at this non-invasive treatment, we fortunately have been blessed to be able to come and give it a go and try. So now reading and doing your research, and when it comes to your health or my health, no limits. Very full on. Not knowing, I think. So if you live here in the U.S., I think it's probably a little bit more. So my experience started with having to actually make a decision on spending Australian dollars to come to the U.S. and have this procedure. Because I was coming here for this procedure. And so we had to really be mindful. I was nervous coming up to it. The team is good and everyone communicated clearly. All of the collateral, all of the information that you need is there. All you have to do is look and read it. So it's all accessible. It's not anything that you have to dig for. And so that made coming here a little bit easier, but it's the unknown. And so I met with Sharon and we got started and went through a pretty, what I would call a detailed pre-screening, which I was really appreciative of and thought, okay, we're moving in the right direction. So that was a very good start. And then she talked about and explained to me exactly what the adhesions were, what they look like, why, etc. So I think the experience from a I guess a psychological effect is I knew and understood what was happening, what she was doing to me. I was educated in that process. And I got more education from here than I've actually gotten from my cancer doctors around that in Australia, because we don't have this in Australia. So that was really cool, being able to actually get collateral and see and understand, diagrams. Okay, well, this is what this looks like, and this is what it looks like afterwards. And so that made this process a lot easier, because those of us who have twisted bowel, cancer, anything like that, you understand that you go through a lot physically. And so this treatment has been challenging, unsettling, but I will say that on the third day, first time in a decade, I did not have to get up and go to the bathroom to do the number one and number two. I had a full night's sleep. I'm finding my stomach has probably reduced half. I'm sore. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not painful, it's uncomfortable. But essentially what's happening is the adhesions are being pulled apart and you feel it. But it's not anything where I need to go home and take aspirin or anything like that. So it's been, I think more than anything, it's been a very educational process, and it's also been a sad process, because you would think that a procedure like this would be more accessible. I just think preventative measures in the cancer space around treatment, when you're cut on so much, to have something like this with the data and the science behind it not readily accessible, I think speaks volumes to the American healthcare system. Look, I'm speaking from a place of privilege, because the system is set up the way it is in the US. This would be out of reach for the majority of Americans. But if it is something that is within reach, you do the research. I don't have to sell it. It's a no-brainer. It like the science, it stands up. So it's not like, this is something new. They've been doing it for a while now, I think 30 years plus. So I would say, why would you do something like surgery when you could try something that could prevent future surgeries? Just makes sense.